Hey there, and welcome back to Momma Drama Trauma. I'm your host, Jenny Kuemmel, and today's episode is a little different. Normally, I'd be continuing my story from where we left off, taking you deeper into those moments of pain and healing as I move through the months following my divorce. But today, I wanted to pause that timeline just for a moment because this week marks something significant. 1 year ago tomorrow, on October 22nd, 2024, my divorce became official. It's hard to even say that out loud, 1 year. In some ways, it feels like it's been a lifetime. And in others, it feels like it was just yesterday that I logged on to CaseNet, the Missouri website where you can check court statuses, and saw those words, "Judgment and decree of dissolution of marriage granted." I can still picture where I was that day, sitting in the Sold in the Lou office, meeting with some coworkers. And for whatever reason, I decided to look. I wasn't expecting to see it that day, but there it was. And I remember feeling this weird combination of emotions that I couldn't even fully name. There was relief, sadness, closure, and grief all wrapped up in one. Relief that it was finally over, that this long, hard chapter of my life had officially closed. Sadness because, 24 years of my life had been spent with one person. My entire adult life had been built with him, and now it was done. It was official. I remember calling my cousin and saying, "I don't even know how to feel." Because I didn't. I expected to feel happy, free, maybe even joyful, but there was a heaviness there too. Sadness for my kids that they were now officially part of a divided family. Sadness for the life that once was, even though I knew it couldn't be anymore. But even with that sadness, I can still remember the breath I took after seeing it. That deep, grounding breath that said, "Okay, it's done. I can finally start over." That's what today's episode is about, that space between endings and beginnings. It's been 1 full year since that moment, and I want to look back, not with bitterness, not with pain, but with gratitude and growth. Because so much has changed in this past year. I've changed. My life, my peace, my purpose. They've all shifted in ways I never expected. So today, we're going to take a little pause from the story timeline. We'll get back to January 2024 in the next episode. But this one felt too important to skip. I want to share what this year has looked like since officially closing that chapter. What I've learned, what's healed, what still hurts sometimes, and how, somehow, through all of it, I've found peace. The day it became official. October 22nd, 2024. It was such an ordinary day until it wasn't. I remember going into the Sold in the Lou office that morning like it was any other day. I had a meeting scheduled with someone there to go over a few things. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing emotional or significant. It was just a Tuesday, I think. A normal day. But for some reason, and I still don't know why, I decided to look on CaseNet. If you're not from Missouri, that's a website where you can check the status of your court cases. I wasn't expecting to see anything that day. It had been months of waiting, wondering when the final papers would go through. And honestly, I think I had started to detach from it emotionally. But there it was. Plain as day, judgment and decree of dissolution of marriage granted. I just sat there for a second, staring at the screen, taking it in. Those words didn't even look real at first. It was like it belonged to someone else's life, but it was mine. It was official. My divorce was granted, and I felt this wave of emotions that didn't make sense together. Relief, sadness, numbness, gratitude, grief. All of it mixed together in this way that made me not even know what to feel. Part of me wanted to cry. Part of me wanted to breathe. And part of me wanted to just sit there quietly, trying to understand what those words really meant. Because after 24 years of being with one person, my entire adult life, seeing that chapter close wasn't something you could just process in a few minutes. That was a lifetime of love, pain, growth, kids, memories, and history. It wasn't just the end of a marriage, it was the end of a version of me. I remember calling my cousin right after and saying, I don't even know how to feel. Because I didn't. I really didn't. I thought maybe I'd feel happy, like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. And I did to a point. There was relief there. The kind of relief that comes when something that's been hanging over you for so long finally gets resolved. It was like I could finally exhale after holding my breath for so long. But then, right underneath that relief, there was this deep sadness I couldn't ignore. Sadness for what was lost, sadness for my kids, because that's the moment it really hit me, that their family, our family of 5, would never be the same again. That we were officially a divided family now. And that's a hard truth to accept as a mom. I remember thinking how strange it felt to feel both those things at once, like I was both mourning and moving forward in the same breath. It was weird, honestly. I remember saying to my cousin, I thought I'd feel pure joy, but there's sadness there too. But even with that sadness, I knew I was ready. I was ready for it to be over. I was ready to stop living in limbo. I was ready to close that chapter and start a new one. Because I couldn't start fresh until that moment came. I couldn't really begin again until that part of my life had been laid to rest. And that's the thing about divorce. There's no right way to feel. People expect it to be either devastating or freeing, but the truth is, it's both. It's heartbreak and hope. It's grief and peace. It's this tangled, bittersweet mix of emotions that no one can really prepare you for. That day, I didn't celebrate, but I also didn't stay in the sadness for long. I just sat with it, let it sink in, let myself feel it, because it was done. After years of trying, hurting, breaking, healing, and rebuilding, it was finally done. And I think the reason I felt that little spark of peace underneath it all was because deep down, I knew that finalization wasn't just the end of my marriage. It was the beginning of me. The year that changed everything. Looking back now, this past year has been a year of change in every sense of the word. I don't even think I realized how much would shift once the divorce was final. I thought I had already gone through the hardest parts, the discovery, the separation, the grieving. But once those words, judgment and decree of dissolution of marriage granted, showed up on CaseNet, it was like life quietly rearranged itself overnight. And honestly, the hardest moments weren't even about me. They were about my kids. When the divorce became official, I think that's when it really hit them that there was no going back. Before that, even though they knew what was happening, there was still this small, unspoken hope. Maybe things would change. Maybe their parents would figure it out. Maybe somehow the family they'd always known would come back together. But once it became real on paper, once it was official, I could see it in their faces. They knew. That was the hardest part for me. As a mom, you want to fix things. You want to protect your kids from every hurt, but this wasn't a scraped knee or a bad day at school. This was a life change, and it broke my heart knowing I couldn't take that pain away from them. I couldn't make it better. I could only be there with them, trying to help them navigate this new version of our lives. There were nights when they'd come to me angry or sad, or when I could just tell they were struggling even if they didn't say a word. I could see it in their eyes, the confusion, the disappointment, the loss. And as much as I tried to stay strong for them, there were moments where I'd go to my room, shut the door, and just cry. Because how do you teach your kids to accept something that you're still learning to accept yourself? And then there were all the other changes, the milestones that kept happening right in the middle of it all. Ryan and Derek turning 18. My boys stepping into adulthood while also dealing with everything that came with our family breaking apart. Watching them try to figure out their own emotions while they were trying to figure out their futures, that was heavy. They were growing up so fast, and I was trying to keep up, trying to be strong, trying to be steady when it felt like everything around us was shifting. And then, of course, there was the reality of their dad moving on. Watching my kids try to process his new relationship, and I know that wasn't easy for them. It wasn't easy for me either, not at first. But I think what made it bearable, what made it livable, was that once the divorce was final, everything between me and my ex-husband got easier. The fighting stopped. The tension eased. The constant uncertainty was replaced with something simple: acceptance. I think that's when I started to truly let go. The bitterness, the hurt, the anger, it just didn't serve me anymore. And it definitely didn't serve my kids. I had to make a choice. Was I going to keep carrying that heaviness, or was I going to set it down and finally start walking forward? So I set it down. I stopped asking why and started saying it is what it is. Not because I didn't care, but because I was finally ready to stop letting the pain define me. And in doing that, I found something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace. You know, people ask me sometimes how I can talk to my ex-husband and his girlfriend, how I can be okay with them, even friendly with them. And even my kids say it sometimes. Mom, how can you do that? How can you be nice to them after everything? And my answer is simple: because holding on to bitterness doesn't hurt anyone but me. If I carry anger, it doesn't affect them. It only poisons my peace. So I let it go. I stopped feeding that part of me that wanted revenge or validation or an apology that might never come. I just let it go. And that was one of the most healing and empowering choices I've ever made. Letting go of all that negativity made space for something new: calm, forgiveness, freedom. And in those quiet moments when I would sit on the couch or take a walk or just breathe, I'd realize that peace doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means deciding not to let it control you anymore. If you had asked my ex-husband years ago, he probably would have said I could hold a grudge like nobody's business. And maybe he was right back then. But this new version of me, she doesn't have the time or the energy for grudges. I'm too focused on building something new. Not rebuilding what's broken, but building something that's mine. This year, I've learned that forgiveness isn't about them. It's about me. It's about choosing to be free. And that freedom, that's the kind of peace you can't put into words. What healing really looked like. If I had to picture what healing looked like for me this past year, I'd say it looked a lot like new roots growing. Slow at first, hidden beneath the surface, but steady. And every so often, a new sprout would push through the dirt, reminding me that even after being torn apart, life can still bloom again. Healing wasn't pretty. It wasn't peaceful every day. Some days it looked like crying in the shower or lying awake at night replaying memories I didn't want anymore. But other days it looked like laughter with my kids, a quiet morning coffee, or sitting outside feeling the sun on my face and realizing I'm okay right now. That's what healing really looked like for me. A messy, beautiful mixture of falling apart and pulling myself back together over and over again. I'm still in our family home, and I've made peace with that for now. I promised myself I'd stay until my boys finish high school. It still holds so many memories, both good and painful, but I no longer walk through the house feeling like a ghost of who I used to be. Instead, I see it as a place of transition, where I'm growing new roots, saving up, planning and dreaming about the day I'll find my own little piece of paradise, my own sanctuary, somewhere that's just mine, where peace lives in every corner and the walls hold only new memories. When I think about what's helped me keep moving forward, it's been my people and my purpose. My mom, my sister-in-laws, my friends, they've been my anchors. There were days when their phone calls or simple check-ins reminded me that I wasn't alone. And my kids, honestly, they are the reason I get up every single morning. They've given me purpose when I felt like I'd lost everything else. Knowing they were watching me, watching how I handled this, kept me accountable. I wanted them to see strength. I wanted them to see resilience. I wanted them to know that even when life knocks you down, you can get back up and still build something beautiful. And then there's this podcast. I never expected Momma Drama and Trauma to become such a huge part of my healing, but it has. Speaking my truth out loud, sharing the parts of my story I used to keep buried, has been one of the most therapeutic things I've ever done. It's helped me see that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's power. It's connection. It's freedom. Every time I hit record, I release a little more of the weight I've been carrying. I've learned that when I share my story, I don't just heal myself, I help someone else heal too. I used to care so much about what people thought of me, about how I looked, what they might say, or whether they'd judge me for staying too long, leaving too late, or loving the wrong person. But somewhere in this process, I stopped caring about all of that. Not in a bitter way, in a peaceful way. This is my life, my story, my lessons. And if someone wants to judge me for living through it, they can go right ahead. Because I'm not living for their approval anymore. I'm living for me. There are still moments that hurt, though. I'd be lying if I said otherwise. Sometimes something small, a song, a memory, even a smell, will hit me out of nowhere, and I'll feel that sting of sadness again. The other day it happened, and I caught myself thinking, why am I feeling this way? I don't even miss him. And that's when I realized I wasn't missing him. I was missing the life we built together, the family moments, the version of myself who believed it would always stay that way. It's normal to grieve that. But after I sat with it, I reminded myself that I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And that thought alone brings peace. Healing for me has been about acceptance. About realizing that it's okay to have those moments, to feel those emotions, to cry when something hits you out of nowhere. It doesn't mean I've gone backward. It just means I'm human. Some wounds might always exist, but they don't define me anymore. When I step back and look at the past year, I can see it clearly now. Those new roots I was talking about, they're stronger than I realized. And every day I can feel myself growing a little taller, a little more grounded, a little more sure of who I am and who I want to be. Who I am now. When I look at who I am now compared to the woman I was a year ago or even 2 years ago, it almost feels like looking at two completely different people. The woman back then was still trying to hold everything together, still trying to understand why everything had fallen apart. She was scared, uncertain, and trying to find her footing on ground that no longer felt solid. And now I'm proud to say I'm standing stronger than ever. This version of me has learned to let go of control, something that for anyone who knows me knows doesn't come easily. I've always been the one with the plan, the one with the schedule, the one who needed everything in order. But life has a funny way of reminding you that you can't control everything, no matter how tightly you try to hold on. So now I'm learning to just go with the flow. I don't fight every wave anymore. I ride it. And I'm proud of that. Proud that I've learned to loosen my grip on how I thought life should look and start embracing what is. That doesn't mean I don't have moments where I still crave structure or certainty, because I do. But now, instead of fearing the unknown, I'm finding peace in it. Because I've realized that even if I don't know what's coming next, I trust myself to handle it when it does. I've also learned to give myself credit, something I didn't used to do. I used to downplay my strength or brush off my accomplishments, but not anymore. Now I see it. I see the woman who's been through hell and somehow found her light again. I see the mom who has carried her kids through heartbreak and confusion and done it with grace. I see the woman who decided to take her pain and turn it into purpose by creating Momma Drama and Trauma, by sharing her story out loud, by saying, "This is who I am." And I'm proud of me. I'm proud that I started this podcast even when it scared me. I'm proud that I chose to be vulnerable, even when it would have been easier to stay quiet. I'm proud that I didn't let fear stop me from chasing new dreams. Because honestly, 2 years ago, I was unsure about everything. My future, my career, my finances, my confidence. I didn't know who I was without being someone's wife. But now I know. I'm Jenny Kuemmel, mom, creator, entrepreneur, storyteller, survivor, and a woman rediscovering herself one day at a time. I'm a realtor. I'm building Just Jenny marketing. I'm building this podcast. I'm creating. I'm living. I'm not just existing anymore. That might be the biggest shift of all. I'm living again. For so many years, I was just getting by, going through the motions, surviving the days, but now I wake up with purpose. I wake up with peace, and I wake up proud of the woman I see in the mirror. Not because she's perfect, but because she's real. And peace has become everything to me. It's my North Star now. It's what I chase, what I protect, what I prioritize. Peace means letting go of anything or anyone that disturbs my calm. It means saying no when I need to. It means trusting that not everything needs to be fixed or figured out right away. It means being okay with where I am, even if I'm still becoming who I'm meant to be. There's this quiet strength in me now that I didn't have before. I've stopped apologizing for my story, for my feelings, for my past. This is my life. The messy parts, the beautiful parts, the in-between, all of it. And I'm finally proud of it. If I could go back and talk to the woman I was 2 years ago, I think I'd tell her, you're going to be okay. You're going to laugh again. You're going to find peace again. And you're going to be so proud of who you become. And I am looking ahead. As I look ahead, I can honestly say for the first time in a long time, I feel excited about what's next. And that's something I haven't felt in years. If the last year has been about letting go and rebuilding, then this next year is about becoming more of the woman I've been growing into, becoming more confident in my voice, becoming more intentional about my peace, my purpose, and the energy I allow into my life. I want the next year to be one where I continue to grow, not just personally, but in every part of my life. I want to keep building this podcast, Momma Drama and Trauma, because it's not just my story anymore. It's a space where other women can see themselves, where they can feel less alone, where they can find hope again. I want to grow it into something bigger than just a podcast, something that connects, empowers, and heals. I want to speak my truth out loud, to tell my story in person, face to face with other women who are walking through their own heartbreaks, betrayals, and transformations. I want to help them see that there's life, real, beautiful life, on the other side of pain. Because I remember what it felt like to be in that dark place, to feel like I was just existing, barely surviving, and I don't ever want another woman to feel like she has to stay there. For so long, especially in those last few years of my marriage, I was living in a fog. I was numb. I was sad. I barely left the house unless I had to. I was in a depression. And even though I think deep down I knew it, I never said it out loud. I was just existing. I wasn't living. But now I'm living. I'm showing up for myself in ways I never did before. I'm creating. I'm dreaming. I'm connecting. I'm open to whatever the future brings. Because I know that no matter what happens, I'll be okay. And a huge part of that peace, that excitement for what's ahead, comes from my kids. I'm so proud of them. Watching them grow into who they're becoming has been one of the greatest gifts of my life. I have 2 getting ready to finish high school, and they have so much potential. They're going to do incredible things, and I can't wait to see it all unfold. And then my youngest still has another year of high school left after this one. And I can't wait to see who he grows to be too. They're all such amazing young men, and I'm so proud of all of us, proud that we've made it through this hard part of our life together, taking care of each other, making sure we're all good because we love each other. We've done that. We've shown up for one another. They've been there for me. I've been there for them. And the thing that makes my heart the happiest is that they've been there for each other. They've loved and supported one another through a hard transition that none of us wanted. And yet, here we are, stronger, closer, and still standing together. I can't wait to see what they do with their lives and who they become as adult men, because I know they're going to do great things, and I'm just so grateful that I get to be here to watch it happen, to see them become who they're meant to be. And that's the message I want to leave with anyone listening who's still in the middle of their divorce or heartbreak. You will be okay too. I know right now it might not feel like it. You might feel like your world has fallen apart, like your best days are behind you, like you'll never feel normal again. But I promise you, you will. There is life on the other side of this. There is laughter, love, and peace waiting for you. Even if you can't see it yet, you are stronger than you realize. You have already survived the hardest parts, even if you're still standing in the wreckage. And one day you're going to look back, just like I am right now, and realize how far you've come. You'll see that every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of doubt was shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more at peace with herself. A year ago, I didn't know what this new life would look like. I just knew I didn't want to keep living the old one. And now, standing here, 1 year after my divorce became official, I can honestly say I'm proud of me, proud of what I've built, proud of what I've survived, and proud of what's still to come. So as I look ahead, I want to keep growing. As a mom, as a woman, as a creator, as someone who continues to turn pain into purpose, I want to be the light for others who are still trying to find theirs. And I want to keep reminding anyone who's listening that no matter what you've lost, you still have you. And that's enough to start again. As always, thank you for being here with me and for walking this journey alongside me. If you're in the middle of your own storm, I hope my story reminds you that brighter days are coming. You're not alone. You're healing, even on the days you don't feel like it. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need it. Subscribe wherever you're listening and make sure to follow Momma Drama and Trauma on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And as always, you are strong, you are worthy, and your story matters. Until next time, take care of you.